Charles Leclerc left the pits thinking strategy would elevate him. Lewis Hamilton entered Silverstone's wet-dry battlefield with no promises, only purpose. By the flag, Leclerc sat P14, Hamilton P4, nearly snatching P3. The difference? Not machinery, not luck. It was mentality, track reading, command presence. Both Ferrari drivers had the same weapon, but only one turned it into a threat. Leclerc got stuck behind Gasly, lost time to Alonso, and drowned in his own radio chatter. Hamilton, he ripped through rivals like a storm. Gasly, Stroll, Russell. Clinical, decisive, quiet. He let his driving speak the message the team couldn't. This is how a champion leads under pressure. Silverstone didn't just show performance gaps, it revealed a leadership vacuum. And who's already filling it? It's not about setups anymore, it's about silent authority. And in a weekend of chaos, Hamilton imposed his. Leclerc, meanwhile, was still asking permission. What happens next will shake the very structure Ferrari clings to, because rain doesn't lie, and legends don't beg for instructions. Lap 13, the heavens opened, and with it came a test no simulator prepares you for. Leclerc hesitated, complained of spray, waited for the call. Hamilton? He felt the grip vanish and ordered wets. No debate, no doubt. His pit crew responded instantly. That single moment separated instinct from instruction. While Charles slid helplessly in no man's land, Lewis hunted. In those chaotic laps, he found pace, poise, and something more dangerous, rhythm, the kind that doesn't ask what now, but says, follow me. Leclerc's onboard revealed a driver overwhelmed, oversteer, wheel spin, voice cracking on the radio. The car's not turning. Meanwhile, Hamilton was adjusting brake bias, feeling the surface, and overtaking with surgical calm. It wasn't about who had the better car, it was about who became the better compass. In Formula 1, when the track disappears, the real map is within the driver's gut, and in that moment, Hamilton wasn't just outperforming Leclerc, he was exposing him. Because when water covers the asphalt, the one who reads it first doesn't just win, he rewrites the hierarchy. Two voices, same team, but the radios told different stories. Leclerc's transmission on lap 18, confusion, desperation. What are we doing? Do I box? He sounded more like a passenger than a protagonist. Meanwhile, Hamilton's tone, sharp, assertive, was that of a commander. Let me know the window, I'll manage. He didn't ask for guidance, he gave it. Ferrari prides itself on structure, but Silverstone revealed something deeper. The team responds to authority, not noise. Hamilton's commands were met with swift action. Leclerc's questions, delayed, debated, sometimes ignored. In motorsport, communication is power. Hamilton uses it like a scalpel. Leclerc swings it like a branch in the dark. That distinction matters when the conditions demand clarity, not confusion. Post-race, Charles blamed the car's instability, but the truth is crueler. The team followed the voice they trust, because at Silverstone, radios weren't just tools, they were mirrors, and what they reflected was a hierarchy already shifting. The question is, does Leclerc see it too? Hulkenberg pitted, Ferrari reacted, but only for one driver. Lap 42 was supposed to be Hamilton's launch pad to the podium. The track was drying, the inters fading, and he was within DRS of P3. The undercut was there, ripe for the taking, and Ferrari for once listened. They called Lewis in. One lap later, Hulkenberg pitted and rejoined just ahead. Barely. The difference? One lap of temperature, one lap of freedom. Leclerc? He was told to wait. Confused, he stayed out 2 more laps, lost 5 seconds in traffic, and rejoined behind Alonso and Albon. Strategy, they called it. But it was submission dressed as caution. Hamilton's stop was a gamble, but it was his gamble, his call, his rhythm. He exited the pits like a man hunting history and nearly stole P3. Meanwhile, Leclerc emerged lost, not just in position, but in purpose. That moment was more than tactical, it was symbolic. Ferrari had 2 drivers, but only one dictated his own fate. And when lap 42 fades into the archives, it won't read pit stop. It'll read Hamilton leads, even when he follows orders. 239 races, 0 podiums, until Silverstone. Nico Hulkenberg stood on the steps of history, but in his mirrors, Hamilton loomed like a shadow. From P6, Hamilton clawed his way through the chaos. When he passed Stroll, then Gasly, then Russell, the charge was on. Hulkenberg was within 4 seconds, then 3, then 2. The grandstands rose with every sector, and yet, it wasn't quite enough. One lap too soon on slicks, one snap in turn 3, one strategy call that favored reaction over aggression. Hulkenberg's Sauber was steady, undisturbed. Hamilton's Ferrari, fighting him every corner. Still, the Brit pushed, not because he believed the car could take him to the podium, but because he could force it there. When Nico took the trophy, the world cheered, but Lewis didn't need champagne. His message was louder. Even in defeat, I lead. It's easy to celebrate the man who surprises. But what about the man who warns, silently, lap after lap, that he's coming? Because if Hamilton can do this with a snappy, reluctant Ferrari, imagine what happens the day they give him one that listens. No crash, no contact, no mechanical failure. And yet, Charles Leclerc finished 14th, behind Albon, behind Alonso, behind a damaged Russell. It wasn't a blowout. It was a slow unraveling, the kind that stings deeper. From the opening laps, Leclerc struggled, trapped in DRS trains, stuck behind slower cars, reactive instead of assertive. His overtakes were hesitant, his radios filled with doubt. At one point, he even attempted to pass Sainz in a desperate lunge over damp curbs, a move that screamed frustration, not strategy. The car was difficult, yes, but Hamilton drove the same Ferrari to within striking distance of a podium. That comparison burns, especially inside Maranello. Post-race, Leclerc pointed fingers, conditions, tyre calls, spray. But there was no storm. Just slow erosion of confidence, of control, of perception. In a weekend where Hamilton made chaos into a canvas, Leclerc simply drowned in it. And when the dust settles, no one will remember the excuses, only the scoreboard. Because in Formula One, silence doesn't mean calm. Sometimes it means collapse. It's like building a wall and then knocking it down. Hamilton said it without rage, but with weight. Not about setup, not about tires, about trust. Every lap, every race weekend, he lays foundation, finding rhythm, stability, control. But just when it holds, Ferrari changes something. A pit call too early, a setup shift without notice, a silence on the radio when clarity is needed most. Silverstone wasn't just wet and wild, it was symbolic. On Friday, Hamilton led FP1, the balance was there. Then came the tweaks, ride height, diff settings, rear stability, gone. What remained was a car that won't stay still, and yet he pushed it into contention. This is no longer a technical problem, it's psychological erosion. How many times can you reset belief before it stops rebuilding? When Lewis said, "You're kind of in no man's land," it wasn't just a comment about corner entry, it was an indictment, a quiet scream. Because for a driver like Hamilton, performance isn't just in lap time, it's in connection. With car, with crew, with mission. And when that breaks, the lap time is just a number. The wall is gone. Inside Ferrari, a quiet phrase lingers. Solo until 2026. It sounds like a contract clause. But what it really means? Isolation. Sources close to Maranello whisper that Hamilton's inputs are being logged, but not leading. Simulator sessions for 2026's car continue with Leclerc's style as the baseline. Key aero updates, calibrated to his feedback. Hamilton, still waiting for the car to fit his hands, not just his name. Silverstone confirmed the undertone. Hamilton is driving for Ferrari, but not with Ferrari. The strategy delay, the radio silences, the post-race narrative spun around learning, all point to one truth. He's a guest, a giant in borrowed colors, revered yet restrained. That's what he meant by no man's land. Not lost on track, but stranded in a team where influence hasn't caught up to his presence. The fear that Ferrari didn't hire Hamilton to follow him, but to buy time, calm critics, sell hope. But if you give Lewis Hamilton isolation instead of inclusion, he doesn't fade. He transforms the silence into revolution. So we ask, will Ferrari finally listen? Or will they lose the one man who could have saved them? The next chapter won't be televised, but it's already writing itself.